Hi there. Hi there. You're listening to Unnatural Selection, the show about newsy type stuff and things. My name is George.
My name is Tom.
And my name is Adam.
And with our powers combined, we are Unnatural Selection. Make sure you visit our salubrious home on the web, unnaturalshow.com.
You can tell when George is just absolutely just destroyed. Like soul is missing in action, just has totally left. Like it's just left his body in hopes of greener pastures when he starts the show sounding like he's having fun. Because you're forcing it. You can tell that he's forcing it. And great. It gets me.
I don't know why he's forcing it. I mean, we're a news and politics podcast. Pretty quiet week this week, not
much happening. Yeah, it's been pretty quiet. Just been spending a lot of time with my family and just really drinking in the richness of, just being a new parent and just really, enjoying the process, just loving life and
living in the moment,
just really being present. Yeah. Because you got to be here now, as Eckhart Tolle says.
Were you basically, were you in the room and present when the US basically became a Russian puppet?
A Russian psyop?
In the room for that?
No. So that was like the first thing I saw was yesterday morning. I literally woke up, I looked at my phone, and then I saw the craziest fucking thing I've ever seen in my life, which is Donald Trump berating Volodymyr Zelenskyy in the Oval Office, which we'll get to.
We'll get to that. And that's like one of the crazy things that happened.
That's just one. It's not even it's not even the craziest thing that happened. It's just one of pick a card, any card.
Data point. Just it's a data point in the plot.
Yeah. Just one of the dots on the scatter plot. That was the, diarrhea shit show that was this week. So let's do some fucking news, I guess.
Starting with the Musk email. Ooh.
Yeah, I guess, surprising no one that Elon Musk doing what Elon Musk likes to do, which is, take over a business, government, take your pick, and then just blast everyone with an email saying, explain to me exactly what you did last week so as I can find some kind of thinly veiled reason to get rid of you when really he just wants to line them all up and shoot them out the back if it'll save him, $1. Can't do that, apparently.
So basically, Elon Musk and the so-called Department of Government Efficiency sent off an email last week asking, hey, what you doing? Saying,
he did this at Twitter, famously.
Yes, did it at Twitter, famously. Basically sent off an email saying, list 5 things that you did last week to the entire government. Just reply all on the US federal government and sent them all an email. And you'll be unsurprised to learn that that is not something that federal workers can really do because a lot of the federal government works on, things that are classified or really sensitive information that can't just go banging around on unsecure email servers. So, some government departments like the FBI and others were like, just hit pause on that. Just pump the brakes on that turbo. We'll see if that's definitely something you're allowed to do.
Even Kash Patel was
Stevens, no, don't you hit that email. I see you writing it.
Yeah, it's even a Trump lackey fuckbag Kash Patel was like, well, I don't know about that. Obviously, a number of what the government, the things that the government does is classified, but also they might be including information in these emails that's that's proprietary or information about who people are working with other people. This is basically a foreign intelligence services wet dream, is to have all of this just raw, unfiltered data about the US government just banging around in email servers. Aside from the fact that it's okay, you've got a bunch of teenagers working at Doge. What was the process for reading? Even if you got everyone to fill out the emails and send them to you, there's 2 million emails that you now, you don't have, you just got to run ChatGPT over it and go, hey, ChatGPT, quick prompt, who can I fire out of this Bunch of pricks.
George, that's exactly what they would do, except they'd use Grok.
Yeah.
They'd use Elon's shitty AI. I just think it's crazy that it shows a next level. It takes Elon Musk's not giving a fuckery to like the next level, because when you type in, like, you've written your email, what'd you do last week, and this is what I want to know, and then you put in the email group entire federal government, that little thing will pop up in your email that'll say this group contains 2 million recipients. And if I see that in my job, like when I email my IT team and it says this has 270 something like recipients, I think twice before I send it. But he clearly just doesn't give a fuck, and just out it goes. It's sociopathic.
Surely as a government worker, you just go to your LinkedIn and go, delivered, fucking efficiencies within SLA and
met KPI requirements, met and exceeded goals.
Exactly.
Yeah. The irony is, like, if they're using an LLM to process this and read it, no one's reading 2 million emails. That's just not happening. So, like, presumably it's an LLM that's generating the 5 dot points. You go, hey, ChatGPT, come up with a bullshit list of 5 things that I could have conceivably done this week. Because then what are they going to do? They're going to be checking
By the way, I work for the FBI.
Yeah, I work for the FBI, and it's like, killed Pablo Escobar. Like,
I was going to say, like, covered up evidence that we killed Martin Luther King.
Spied on Martin Luther King. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Yeah, it's so. These are the dumbest motherfuckers alive, and we are 10 steps behind them. Does it ever?
They have all the money and all the power. The dumbest fuckers alive.
He's the richest guy in the world. They have all of the levers of power in government. They are the dumbest people ever to have lived, and they are beating the shit out of us right now. Like, they are beating the ever-loving piss out of us as a leftist voting bloc right now. Like, it just hurts to lose to someone who's just so, like, profoundly dumb. Like, it just, it's just,
They turned around, obviously, after the fact, and were like, oh, it's just a prank, bro.
Just kidding.
Just kidding. It was just a test. Just wanted to see if anyone had, what was the term? Neurons or some?
2 neurons that were capable of firing.
Is it just like, is this like the mandatory phishing training that we all get in corporations now? Like, if you get an email that asks you to say what 5 things you did working for the CIA, maybe don't reply.
If you get an email from Elon Musk asking for your login credentials, do you A, report it to IT, B, submit willingly?
Say, yes, sir, King Meme.
Yeah. He did also tweet at the same time that failure to reply to this email would be taken as a resignation, which is not how anything works. And then less than 24 hours before the deadline, Musk said that the emails were simply a ruse to ensure federal employees were, quote, capable of responding, unquote, to his correspondence. And Trump was saying, like, oh, we're just trying to make sure that, they're even like real employees or whatever. I was like,
so it's not a ruse then?
Yeah, it's not a ruse, because if you don't respond, you're fired.
You wanted a reply to prove that they're a real person who'll email back. So it's not a ruse. You wanted a reply.
Yeah. Tom, it seems like you're surprised that these people are amoral cretins.
I mean, allegedly, they've been saying that there's dead people working for the federal government, and there's the biggest money laundering scheme.
This is the bullshit that they're trying to spin up. Yeah.
And like, because they're operating within effectively a propaganda sort of apparatus, like, you wouldn't know whether that's what truth is there to that. Like, I don't actually. It's hard to tell. What we do know, though, is that about 20,000 workers have been laid off since the Trump administration took power, and another 75,000 have been offered buyouts. Now, some of those people have been hurriedly hired back, which we talked about last week. But like, these numbers are, like, 20,000 is actually a fairly significant number. If we fired like 20,000 public servants within 3 weeks within the Australian government, I think the government would break. So, I guess if they keep at this pace, you've got to wonder, like, what is the actual consequence that will come to services that the government has to deliver at some point? It surely will have to start collapsing at some point. because I don't exactly think they're going in there and firing these people and then coming back out and saying, yeah, cool, we've improved it and we've got a new process and here's a bunch of software to like. We haven't heard about any of that stuff. All we're
Turns
hearing
out,
about is the layoff.
we put Salesforce in now. Everything works great. So
Yeah, nailed it.
yeah.
Does does he own Salesforce?
No,
'Cause
not
that
yet.
It makes sense. So I think it's probably more we've chucked X
Yeah.
into the Department of Agriculture and fixed all its problems.
We chucked a grok on it. A friend of the show, Polyverse, writing in, no slow news days anymore. Yeah, that's correct. Polyverse is only just a fire hose to the face news days from now on. So just hang on for the next 3.99 years.
Great.
So earlier in the week, there was a news article. This is on Wednesday. When I say earlier in the week, this is Wednesday Australian time.
This is a school night. We didn't even get all the way through the week.
No, but this is like potentially a good news story. There was apparently that Ukraine and the US had edged closer towards securing a critical minerals deal, which
edging is right.
Edging that would potentially basically give a 50-50 sort of, I guess, split between income generated from critical minerals that Ukraine has between Ukraine and the US, and that would be a way of paying the US back for the aid that it has sent Ukraine since the war began.
In case you're wondering, is that how anything works? Is that how diplomacy works? Is you just send over a gunboat and say, hey, all these things that you have over here are yours? Yes, that is how it worked in the 1800s. Not so much nowadays for obvious reasons. But basically, so in exchange for nothing, it seems.
We're talking about people within both the Ukrainian government and the US government have been working feverishly over the last week and a half, 2 weeks to actually put together this deal, and it all hinged on, cool, we'd potentially be interested in signing this with you if you give us security guarantees. Right. This is Ukraine. If you give us security guarantees. And that part hadn't been really confirmed.
And also, from what I heard, the Ukrainian side of the deal kept sort of shifting as well. And initially Trump was like, yeah, they're going to give us $500 billion worth of minerals and the rare earths and or the rights to it. And then by the time the week was out, then it was we're going to cooperate on some mineral exploration and some of it's going to be put in a fund and the US might get some money back. So it ended up being kind of this very vague kind of non-agreement by the time the negotiators were done with it. And well, here's Trump sort of talking about it and talking about Zelenskyy coming to the US, and then we'll show you the fallout of that meeting of Zelenskyy coming to the US.
I hear that he's coming on Friday. Certainly, it's okay with me if he'd like to, and he would like to sign it together with me, and I understand that's a big deal, very big deal. And I think the American people, even if you look at polling, they're very happy because, Biden was throwing money around like it's cotton candy, and it's a very big deal. Look, it could be $1 trillion deal, it could be whatever, but it's rare earths and other things. And look, we're spending hundreds of billions of dollars on Ukraine and Russia fighting a war that should have never, ever happened. That's a war that would have never happened if I were president. And it didn't happen for 4 years. People say, how do we know that it didn't happen for 4 years? Would have never happened. And nevertheless, this guy went into this situation and he spent money like nobody's ever seen, $350 billion. The other thing that we don't like is that Europe has spent $100 billion. We've spent $350 billion. Europe gets their money back because they spent it in the form of a loan, and we just gave them, whether it's 300 or 350 billion, nobody really knows. They can't even tell me the answer to that. It means probably more than that. So what we're doing is now we're.
Okay, the part of that irks me the most. I mean, yes, he just clearly doesn't understand kind of what they're signing or the value of it.
The rare earths. Tom, you think he doesn't know the details of the rare earths?
Yeah.
I wonder which electric car billionaire was interested in the rare earths. That's a weird. Yeah, it's interesting where he got that idea for the rare earths. But no, neither here nor there.
But the part that irks me is that he said that Biden threw money around like cotton candy. I don't think cotton candy, I believe referred to as fairy floss here in Australia, throws very well. Like, it is not a form of like confectionery that is easily distributed that well, right? It disappears if it comes into contact with any moisture. We've all seen the video of the squirrel raccoon that has like a big bit of fairy floss and just drops it in water and watches it vanish before his very eyes and has an existential crisis staring at his own reflection like he's narcissist. But like, that doesn't. Oh. No,
that's the part that irks you, Tom? Is the metaphor?
Yeah, because the rest of it I expect. I expect Donald Trump to understand what fucking candies are.
Not the fact that obviously the US has not spent anywhere near $350 billion, or the falsehood that the America has spent some more than the Europeans, and that the Europeans are somehow getting their money back out of it, which is also completely false. None of that topped the list for you. It was mainly the fairy floss.
Garbage, but yeah, fairy floss. Yeah, like you can't like just throw something around like fairy floss. That like you couldn't guarantee if you were throwing money around like fairy floss. It's like in the movies when they just have money cannons and everything floats down everywhere and everyone scrambles to try and grab the notes. You cannot control where the money goes if you're throwing it like fairy floss, you idiot.
Right, so probably like money would be a better analogy there. Throwing the money around
probably,
like money.
Like, you know, just flicking singles out everywhere or something, like making it rain.
Flicking singles, getting dingles. So that was...
and let's just hard move on from it.
That's Wednesday. That's a move on. Okay, so Wednesday. Okay, this is how dumb.
Yeah.
This administration is that we need to track the timeline day by day, like it's Watergate, just on a weekly basis. You know what I mean? Like Wednesday, 26th of Feb, they break into the Democratic offices at Watergate. Someone
might have actually been I don't know whether what that would have been American time, but it was Wednesday Australian time that story broke. But yeah.
Anyway, so Friday, US time, Zelenskyy comes to the US at the US's invitation. Trump was trying to make out like he wanted to come, like he just kind of like hopped on the red phone and was like, "Bro, can I come over to the US and please give away $500 billion worth of minerals?" And that's obviously not what happened.
He's just like, "I hear Zelensky's coming on Friday." Dude,
you summoned him.
You summoned him.
Yeah. Okay. So, and here is one of the crazier things that I've ever seen in my dumb life. Is that so Zelensky's in the room along with Donald Trump and JD Vance and Marco Rubio, who's just kind of looking vaguely sick of what seems to be transpiring. It's kind of a longer clip, but so we'll play it. But basically, they're just kind of like berating Zelenskyy essentially in the Oval Office. I don't know how else to describe it. It's kind of the weirdest thing I've seen this week until the next weirdest thing that I've seen this week, which was the AI video. But okay, we'll play the clip and then we'll talk about it. It's long.
For 4 years in the United States of America, we had a president who stood up at press conferences and talked tough about Vladimir Putin, and then Putin invaded Ukraine and destroyed a significant chunk of the country. The path to peace and the path to prosperity is maybe engaging in diplomacy. We tried the pathway of Joe Biden of thumping our chest and pretending that the President of the United States' words mattered more than the President of the United States' actions. What makes America a good country is America engaging in diplomacy. That's what President Trump is doing.
Can I ask you?
Sure.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. So he occupied our parts, big parts of Ukraine, part of East and Crimea. So he occupied it on 2014. So during a lot of years, so I'm not speaking about just Biden, but those time was Obama, then President Obama, then President Trump, then President Biden, now President Trump, and God bless, now President Trump will stop him. But during 2014, nobody stopped him. He just occupied and took. He killed people. You know what the contact line?
2015.
2014 and 2014.
2014.
Yeah. So
I was not here.
Yeah, but
That's exactly right.
Yes, but during 2014 till 2022, the situation the same. The people have been dying on the contact line. Nobody stopped him. You know that we had conversations with him, a lot of conversation, my bilateral conversation, and we signed with him, me, like a new president. In 2019, I signed with him the deal. I signed with him, Macron and Merkel, we signed ceasefire. Ceasefire. All of them told me that he will never go. We signed him with gas contract. Yes, but after that, he broken this ceasefire. He killed our people and he didn't exchange prisoners. We signed the exchange of prisoners, but he didn't do it. What kind of diplomacy, JD, you are speaking about? What do you mean?
I'm talking about the kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yes, but if you
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media. Right now, you guys are going around and forcing conscripts to the front lines because you have manpower problems. You should be thanking the president for trying to bring an end to this conflict.
Have you ever been to Ukraine that you say what problems we have?
I have been to.
Come once.
I've actually watched and seen the stories, and I know what happens is you bring them on a propaganda tour, Mr. President. Do you disagree that you've had problems bringing people into your military? And do you think that it's respectful to come to the Oval Office of the United States of America and attack the administration that is trying to prevent the destruction of your country?
A lot of questions. Let's start from the beginning.
Sure.
First of all, during the war, everybody has problems. Even you, but you have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future. God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless. God bless. You will not have a war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that.
That's exactly what you're doing.
You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel. We're going to feel very good.
You will feel influence.
We're going to feel very good and very strong.
You will feel influence.
You're right now not in a very good position. You've allowed yourself to be in a very bad position, and he happens to be right about it.
From the very beginning of the war.
You're not in a good position. You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having cards. Right now, you don't. You're playing cards. You're playing cards. You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III. You're gambling with World War III. And what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country, that's backed you far more than a lot of people said they should have.
Have you said thank you once? This entire meeting? No, in this entire meeting, have you said thank you?
Today.
You went to Pennsylvania and campaigned for the opposition in October. Offer some words of appreciation for the United States of America and the president who's trying to save your country.
Please, you think that if you will speak very loudly about the war,
He's not speaking loudly. He's not speaking loudly. Your country's in big trouble.
Can I
Wait a
answer?
minute. No. You've done a lot of talking. Your country is in big trouble.
I know.
You're not winning. You're not winning this. You have a damn good chance of coming out okay because of us.
Mr. President, we are staying in our country, staying strong from the very beginning of the war. We've been alone, and we are thankful. I said thanks
you haven't
in
been
this
alone.
cabinet,
You
and
haven't
not
been
only
alone.
in this cabinet.
We gave you, through this stupid president, $350 billion.
You voted
we gave
for
you
your
military
president.
equipment,
You
and you
voted
men
for
are
your
brave,
president.
but they had to use our military.
What about
If you didn't have our military equipment,
you invited
if
me
you
to
didn't
speak.
have our military equipment, this war would have been over in 2 weeks.
In 3 days, I heard it from Putin. In 3 days, this is something
Maybe
new.
less.
In 2 weeks, of course, yes.
It's going to be a very hard thing to do business like this. I
And
tell you.
just say thank you.
I said a lot of times to American people.
Except that there are disagreements, and let's go litigate those disagreements rather than trying to fight it out in the American media when you're wrong.
Jesus fucking Christ.
It actually makes you feel sick.
Actually made me feel ill.
Frankly, bananas.
Yeah.
And I think also, just to throw a crazy, outrageous point here, they let JD sit on the couch, which is a bold choice in any meeting, I think. Like, of course he was all riled up. Of course he was there ready to fight.
Just horned up.
And have you seen like the sweet piece of ass in the room?
Okay.
He has to look big and strong.
All right. So
Sorry, I had to get that in there before we talk about how fucking insane that is. And I know, like, it's not the point, like, just before we get into the actual meat of what they actually said.
Yeah.
But and it's not the point, but it's just sickening to see that, like, because obviously Zelenskyy, English is not his first language.
Sure.
And he does not...
It's his third, in fact, I think.
Yeah, he isn't speaking English as strongly at what I hate to say that like Donald Trump has stronger English skills than somebody because he speaks like a fucking moron.
Naturalized English, let's put it that way. It's not more than a sixth grade reading level English, but it is naturalized. Yeah.
But you know, he obviously feels more confident in it, and so does JD Vance, and that they clearly just take advantage of that to steamroll him.
What it reminded me of,
disgustingly disrespectful.
Like. It reminded me of being like berated by my parents growing up. Like when my parents would just start like steamrolling and just like yelling for the sake of yelling and like bringing up old and like you didn't even say you would thank you for, you know, just like bringing up shit from like years ago from like previous arguments that wasn't even related to the thing you're currently talking about. The whole thing felt like an ambush. Like
that looked like a family argument disagreement because there was that fucking bit in the middle when it's JD and Zelenskyy going off at each other and Trump is just sitting there like,
you really ought to listen to your mother.
I'm 4 years old and I'm just like looking back and forth while mum and dad fight like the little toddler piece of shit I am.
You got to listen to your mother, okay? I don't always agree with her, but when she's right, she's right.
Like just absolutely insane. And that Trump just starts yelling about being told how to feel.
And that's what I meant. It's just like
had a feeling.
Okay. At the start, where he's like, in 2014, he invaded, being Putin. He's talking about Putin invaded Crimea, and Trump's like 2015. It's like, no, 2014 is when Putin initially invaded Crimea, and he goes, oh well, that was before. He literally just like heard the year 2014 and went, oh, whatever happened. That wasn't my fault. Like, I don't think he even knew necessarily about the Crimean invasion in 2014. Like, I think he literally just kind of like is one of those like cocktail party things where you hear your name and you just turn around and you go, yeah, what's that? 2014? No, that wasn't me. I didn't come in until 2016.
And despite the fact that Zelenskyy had just explained, like, this issue has been going on from when Obama was president in 2014, and then when you were president, then when Biden. So he had just acknowledged, I'm aware that Trump, you weren't the president when this happened.
Yeah, but he's only ever...
Like, I wasn't the president.
Trump is only ever like half listening to any conversation that's happening around him because he could give a shit. So that was when his like attention snapped back to, you know, what was actually happening in the room. But the whole point that Zelenskyy was making quite calmly, I might add, was that like, okay, yes, you talk about a negotiated diplomatic solution, JD, but how are we to take this person seriously when we've had diplomatic negotiated solutions previously with Vladimir Putin, which he has breached? Like, how are we to take, without a security guarantee, which the US has neglected to offer, how are we to take any kind of negotiated solution seriously? Which is an excellent point.
Yes. Can I just say I love that he called JD his JD
rather than Mr. Vice President. Love that. JD.
I mean, Zelenskyy and JD, they had met several weeks ago now in Europe somewhere, I think.
Not
on the sidelines of
Ukraine.
On the sidelines of the Munich conference.
The security conference.
They are somewhat familiar with each other, but I think
I liked it.
It's funny because it really escalated a little bit because JD, remember, he went to Munich and he basically insulted. I don't know if we even covered this.
Just flipped. No, this didn't even make the list. He just basically went to the Munich conference and then like basically verbally flipped everyone off and said, "Suck eggs, cunts."
Yeah,
like
essentially
America.
America. In America, without the sense of irony or satire.
Yes,
he just said, "No, lick my butt and suck on my balls," and walked on stage.
So that's been playing pretty well for him domestically, that footage, because a lot of conservative commentators have seen that as America telling Europe how to fucking go about it, right? So it's almost, I did feel like I was like, is JD trying to just slam home some talking points here? And then that sort of just
felt like a prefab ambush from JD.
Yeah.
Like he came in hot knowing that it was going to start some shit, and they knew, like, TASS, the Russian media, was for some reason in the room live streaming this. And then the White House said after the fact, oh, we don't know how they got in there. Oh, yeah, because people just walk in and out of the Oval Office constantly.
In their administration, I probably wouldn't be too surprised if just anyone who says this.
Oh, that's weird.
Oh, I'm with the media.
Russian state media.
Anything about any launch codes and just walk in.
The Russian state media. How'd you guys get in here? Nobody knows.
So they were meant to, have further discussions and have a press conference afterwards.
And Zelenskyy got kicked out. Apparently, two senior Trump aides just kicked him out of the fucking building, and they just went. And they wanted to keep talking, and they were just "No, get the fuck out."
I thought he left.
We got our soundbite. We got our piece of footage. We got our content for the week. Get fucked on your bike. And he's like, article, you asked me to come here to speak.
The article from the ABC, I think, pointed to two aides that were setting up for lunch were then told to do a 180 and
fuck them off, basically.
Zelenskyy went on Fox News shortly afterwards and then sort of, tried to, I guess, calm things down a bit. But by that point, the damage is done. This deal's off the table. But what is interesting is that in terms of the fallout geopolitically, globally, you could say that I would suggest that American support for Ukraine's probably done at this point.
This, without exaggeration, this meeting, this date is going to be referred back to in a historical context. Whatever happens with the war in Ukraine, we're going to look back at this as the Franz Ferdinand got shot moment. Whatever comes after this, this is going to be this was the hinge point that altered the course of history, where basically live on television, the American president switched sides in terms of the war that it was supporting, basically switched from supporting Ukraine to supporting Russia.
Yeah.
That was the moment that happened. We watched it happen on a live streamed Russian state TV.
So obviously world leaders globally have been
not thrilled
to Zelensky's sort of defense, and pretty well shortly after this, he's gone to the UK, and the UK have
Keir Starmer gave him a big hug after that. That was a tough one, buddy.
And that was after Keir Starmer, not more than a day or two before or either side of this. I can't remember which one came first. Keir Starmer also had some tense words with Trump, not like this, but there were, it was again an awkward media conference, right? It's driven Zelenskyy back to the arms of Europe, but by many accounts, that's what the Americans or the Trump administration wants. They don't want to be dealing with this. They want the Europeans to just sort it out.
Yeah.
But
and this is basically what Friedrich Merz, the newly elected Chancellor of Germany, was talking about, basically saying that the US is not a friend anymore. We need to build our own intra-European alliance that doesn't rely on the United States to provide security for NATO, for the European Union, for basically, hey, we're on our own. And that was before, that was a week ago when he was elected. He said that was before this. So very much.
I thought I had more time.
Yeah.
I thought I had more time to set up this new alliance before Trump.
But this is what they've been calling for. This is what Project 2025 is all about, is
America first.
And that's what Trump tried to do in his first term, was to basically make the Europeans, pay for more. But in terms of, this concept that somehow Europe just needs to pay for more, and also you're talking about, that $350 billion, Trump conflates numbers, as though somehow the Europeans aren't spending shitloads of money. You've got to remember it's
the Europeans
are
paying, yes. So when they talk about percentage of military spending, they talk about it as a percentage of GDP, 2% of GDP, 5% of GDP, whatever. Not just that, but also the Europeans have put in the lion's share in terms of material and resources, over 60%, right, in terms of Ukraine's defense. The other thing that really just boils my piss about this is that it's not like they're just sending over, Hercules planes with pallets of cash, and the Ukrainians are banking the
rolling
cash
around in it,
and just rolling around in it like Donald Duck and diving into big piles of money. What they do is they basically give the Ukrainians old American military surplus. They go, okay, you can have these old whatever M1A1 Abrams tanks. Off you go. You can have those. Those have been sitting there for a while. We will pay our arms manufacturers to manufacture new tanks, and then those will be in our army. So it's basically like they talk about all this money that they're sending off to Ukraine, and it's really just like
hand-me-downing your gear.
Hand-me-downs, right. And when the United States, as we know, famously charges $900 for a hammer, you know, like that's a real example. Look that up. But it's, the idea that the sticker price of what they're providing to the Ukrainians is anywhere near what's actually being given to them in terms of like military aid is just completely ridiculous. It's like you've given someone a hand-me-down BMW and gone, I've just given you $100,000. It's like, right, but like that car is now worth like $30,000 if I was to turn around and sell it. So you haven't given me $100,000, you've given me a used car, right?
Well, the US Department of Defense's own figures say it's $182 billion.
Yeah, most of which goes into the pockets of US
appropriations.
Appropriations, right. So dollars that have gone into the pockets mostly of US arms manufacturers and jobs which are in the United States and money which gets recirculated around the United States, right? Nowhere near $350 billion.
Yeah. But that kind of maths of percentages and things like that is too complicated for Trump to understand. But he can understand that 350 billion is a larger number.
That's a big number. That's a much bigger number.
And that's as far as the thought needs to go for him. That's enough to satisfy his little dipshit brain to just start like coming up with a sentence like "you're gambling with World War III" and just keep saying it over and over. Which is
literally a Kremlin talking point. Why is the onus on Ukraine, a not nuclear armed state, who was invaded? Why is the onus on them for starting World War III? Like Vladimir Putin is the one who was threatening the use of nuclear warheads and starting World War III. Like he is the aggressor, and he's the one.
World War III starts as a result of this war, then Russia started.
Russia will have been responsible. Like the idea that he's calling Zelenskyy a dictator, and then people in the press will ask him, "Oh, is Vladimir Putin a dictator?" And he goes, "I don't want to talk about that." It's like,
you know what else is wild from that press conference?
What?
Some journalist turned around to Zelenskyy and was like, "Yeah, why don't you wear a suit?
Why don't you wear a suit?"
Aggressively. And Zelensky's like,
it's because busy fighting a war. Like,
maybe when the war's over.
It was like, he goes, maybe afterwards I'll wear one that's more expensive.
You know what he should have
yours.
said?
Maybe I'll wear one that's cheaper. I don't know.
You know what he should have said?
Question.
Oh, just like Elon Musk. I'll wear a suit just like Elon Musk wears a suit all the time, which he doesn't.
Yeah.
That was like some far-right American news network shithead that's now part of the press pool instead of the Associated Press. So this is a cool, fun time that we're entering into where basically the press are just going about and making fun of foreign leaders on behalf of the president. It's just such a strange fucking thing to see in the Oval Office. Like, if this was a TV show and there was a scene like this where foreign leaders like arguing in front of cameras, the note would be like, I think you got to tone it down with this scene. Like that, it's just too ridiculous. Like that would never happen. It's just people won't believe it. Like,
yeah. Again, it's like the times are breaking fiction. Like, the Veep people had that problem in his first term of like, we have to, that episode we just wrote, we can't do it because they did it.
Because he did it. He literally did it. It's not satire anymore. It's just a thing that happened.
The other thing that you can tell Trump isn't across this as well, because the other thing that Trump keeps saying is that, there needs to be European peacekeepers in Ukraine. We would support that. Meanwhile, Russia's like,
that's the main thing that they don't want.
They're like, no. The reason why we're doing this war is to stop Europeans in Ukraine.
But the whole thing about
there are like semi-peacekeepers, NATO.
Yeah,
like maybe it's kind of what NATO is.
Yeah, I thought NATO was the problem according to Putin. But yeah, the whole thing about you're not going to tell me how we feel. Basically, how we are going to feel. He's basically saying like, if you don't stop Putin here, he will progress. He'll progress across Europe to the point. It may not be your problem now because you're separated by an ocean, but like one day it will be your problem, Neville Chamberlain. Like if you keep appeasing this fucking guy, he's not just going to go, you know what? I'm just really happy with the section of the fatherland I've carved out for myself. Just happy with Poland. And that's it. No, what happens with these territorial expansion dictator fascist shitheads is that they go, oh, that worked. Great. I'll take another bite of the apple. I'll have a little bit more. Actually, Moldova looks pretty nice this time of year. Why don't we take a little bite out of Latvia? Why don't we take a little bite out of this? And he was saying it may not be your problem now, but it may be your problem one day if he keeps his, expansion going the way it's going.
I'd recommend anyone, if you want to keep track because a lot of this stuff happens there'll be little bits and pieces that happen day by day and it can be hard to keep track of, but check out the Institute for the Study of War, their Facebook page. They've got a website. They are an American think tank, but they've got some European sort of connections as well, but they do breakdowns on the Middle East, of the South China Sea, and also of the war in Ukraine. And you can see that they track the talking, not only just the military actions, but they track the talking points. And you can see, to George's point, the Kremlin rhetoric that the US is now...
It's coming out of the mouth of the vice president.
Sort of buying into
Yeah.
is interesting. Now, look, the concept of Ukraine will have to make some sacrifices in order to achieve peace. But the issue is that the Russians have not budged in their demands for what they will settle for with peace.
Here's how a negotiation works, is that one side has a perspective, another side has a different perspective, and then you negotiate and meet somewhere in the middle. And basically,
the Russians have not budged.
What the Russians have done have said,
we want Ukraine.
Fuck you. Thanks very much for playing. I drink your milkshake.
Yeah. It's crazy just to see a US president just be like, hey, let Russia win.
Yeah.
What? I don't get how his base is okay with this as well, given remember,
they're not. 81% of Americans think Vladimir Putin is not a trustworthy character and should not be empowered.
Yeah.
It's not a popular issue amongst his own base. That's the weird thing.
Jog my memory here, but wasn't there a time, I'm trying to remember specifically what happened, but then when even the most right-wing conservative nutbar was all like, oh my God, I think Donald Trump's a traitor, because of handing it to the Russians. They were like, yeah, the Russians are the bad guys. Fuck, what happened? Oh, that's gonna drive me
so many things.
I'll have to come up.
I mean, that was the whole thing with the 2016, when he got elected in 2016, right? We were saying that maybe Donald Trump, the Trump campaign had been under the influence of Russian.
There was a number of documented interactions between Russian government cutouts and the Trump campaign. I mean,
then there was the WikiLeaks thing.
We know for a fact that they hacked the Democrats' emails and leaked it out. Basically for the benefit of Donald Trump. There's a number of weird, shady, and people go, they said Russia, and it was all proved to be a hoax. And it's like, no, not really. There was a bunch of documented weird, shady shit between Paul Manafort, who is his campaign manager, and Russian oligarchs, and that is all documented and real. It never added up to a formal indictment or anything, but there was a lot of weird shit, a lot of weird, smoky, stinky smoke between the Trump campaign and Russia, both in the 2016 presidential election, and in the 2024 presidential election. I don't think it's out of pocket. And the one person that they put forward for the DNI role happens to be Tulsi Gabbard, who's just a Russian psyop personified.
Allegedly.
Let's sprinkle an allegedly on that as though it makes a difference. It's not a coincidence. There's a lot of weird, freaky connections between Donald Trump and the Trump campaign and Russia over the years. He has a weird obsession with strong men and how they do things. Even JD Vance, even his own cabinet, days before this, were talking about how they needed to support
Rubio, Hegseth,
all of these fucking guys.
Dictator. And then they just fucking
American Republican conservatives, as a rule, I might have to say this to people who haven't been around for a minute, fucking hate Russia, and it's been their entire modus operandi like growing up through the
Red's
Cold
under
War.
the bed, man. They're
Red's under the bed.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, to see a US president be doing this, like, how is this not just absolutely triggering all those people? Like, through the roof. And speaking on the amount of like documented stuff, I just found in a quick Google search a Wikipedia article that is some like nearly 8,000 words long, entitled links between Trump associates and Russian officials. It seems like there's quite a lengthy page there.
Yeah. It's not out of nowhere, right? Like anyway, so one would have thought
useful idiot, because he probably doesn't even realize that he is a patsy.
Yes, the most useful idiot. You would have thought that would cap off an absolutely tragic, weird fucking week for American geopolitics, and that was going to be the weirdest, most bizarre thing that was possibly going to come up. And on most weeks, you'd be right, but on this week you're absolutely fucking wrong, because Trump, from his Truth Social account, shared what has to be the most bizarre AI slop video that I've ever seen in my life. Basically envisioning his Trump Gaza foreign policy. I hesitate to call it policy. Situation of what they're going to do with
his
vision for a reinvigorated Trump Gaza, and the whole thing is just AI slop start to finish. So fucking have a lemon sorbet, roll a fat blunt, like get a glass of whiskey, whatever it is you need to do to like steel yourself and prepare your body, cleanse the palate for what is about to come. You do that now, pause this, and take a shit, take a shower and a shave, whatever you need to cleanse yourself for what is about to come. Do it now, because it's happening in 3, 2.
Set you free, bringing the light for all to see. No more tunnels, no more fear. Trump Gaza is finally here. Trump Gaza shining bright, golden future, a brand new life. Feast and dance, the deal is done. Trump Gaza number one. Trump Gaza shining bright, golden future, a brand new life. Feast and dance, the deal is done. Trump Gaza number one.
I'd forgotten how the music kicked in. So it's like, no, we don't need to describe it, because the music does it, doesn't it?
I hadn't watched it with the music. It's even worse.
Trump Gaza. First of all, I hate everything. I don't want to be on this planet anymore. So it's just a perfect confluence of everything I hate. It's Donald Trump. It's AI. It's Elon Musk. It's AI video. It's weird, bearded, dancing ladies. You notice that the belly dancers all had beards for some reason?
Yeah, they all had beards. And
I hate it. Thanks, I hate it.
Yeah, like it's kind of, again, something I thought that would really rile up their base, because that seems like more inclusive of like gender diversity and.
That's not what it was. It was just weird AI slop.
Weird AI shit, but I don't know, like accidentally progressive, maybe. No. And then also that there's Trump and Netanyahu in their speedos by the pool, having like a real gay old time. Like, I mean, go shoot your shot. Like
the gratuitous Elon Musk money cannon.
Why was Elon Musk eating? There was so much Elon Musk weird mouth AI eating. There was so much of it. And there was like a golden Trump, like Gaddafi statue in the middle of the fucking, like, and just like, again, I cannot stress this enough. The president of the United States, Donald J. Trump, posted this video. He didn't make it. Okay, it's been floating around in alt-right spaces, and he just took it and then like reposted it on his Truth Social account as like, this is pretty good. This is what I do in Gaza, right?
Yeah, who knows who the fuck made it, from like edgelords on 4chan to some White House intern. But yeah, you're right, George. The president, his official account on the like social media platform he owns, just posted that out.
And it's like, it's neither here nor there, because it's like there's so many things that are wrong with this video that I hate, just like aside from the literal golden calf, like Antichrist, like, metaphor analogy that he's created there. But just the idea that like Trump Gaza number one is just like utterly just a phrase completely devoid of meaning. Like it means nothing. Like that is a phrase that you've just put words
Trump
together.
Gaza number one.
Trump Gaza number one.
Yeah.
It means nothing.
It's absolutely, to quote a elderly Chinese Newtown-based seamstress, cuckoo. It is cuckoo. Is exactly what this
I think that seamstress Tom was onto something.
She was wonderful.
Yes, obviously that didn't go well with various people around the world.
Why? Why a fun
on what grounds?
A fun ethnic cleansing music video? What's not to love?
Not that the administration particularly cares.
I'm sweating. It's giving me a fever. Yeah. I think I'm high from watching this video. I think I've lost my mind.
How does Netanyahu feel about this? Because while, like, sure, he wants the land or whatever because, like, it's evil and craven, but to see it like it's all Trump stuff. It's Trump's land. Like, I don't think you've been, like, doing a genocide for, like, 70 years to hand it over to Trump.
So you can put a golden casino on the Gaza Strip. Right. The Gaza Strip can be the Las Vegas Strip.
Yeah, like, how is this not just absolutely, like, riling them up as well as the rest of us who see this as abhorrent?
I don't know. Probably is, but, Netanyahu's quite happy to sit in his golden castle with the weird, promises and other, undertakings that have or haven't been made between him and Trump. Because at the moment, as far as Netanyahu's concerned, this whole Trump administration is working out great for him.
Yeah, he's laughing.
I don't know. One of the weirdest AI videos I've seen.
Just I just want to know how are the abstainers and protest voters feeling now? Like it's a really nuanced situation of, like, when you're stuck between rocks and hard places, of people who are both going to be contributing to such an atrocity, right? Like,
you're saying, like, the uncommitted movement that refused to vote for Kamala Harris because of the Gaza position.
There was no, like, person to vote for that would have actually, like, mattered, who was on the right side of history who
would improve the Gaza situation.
Yeah,
sure.
To improve the Gaza situation. Like, yes, I am fully, like, I not so much understand, because I couldn't possibly understand the perspective, but I at least appreciate it. But how you feeling now? Like, when people were saying, like, no, it won't be any worse.
They're just as bad as each other. They're just as bad. Yeah, not really, though.
Like, yeah, and it's not how the US voting system works.
I can guarantee you one thing.
Things like we do to be able to at least keep our conscience clear when the lesser of two evils still rolls through.
I can guarantee you would not have a Kamala Gaza video clip, AI video clip, hitting number one on the charts.
Like, some, like, weird boppy tune talking about how, you want to fall out of a coconut tree, but in Gaza, kind of, like, meme bullshit.
Yeah, that wouldn't have happened in 1,000 years under a Kamala Harris presidency. That I can assure you.
Supplying the weapons to vaporize children.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Speaking of the military, Trump had a military purge in what's now being referred to as the Friday Night Massacre, where a bunch of very senior military leaders were purged from the military from the Joint Chiefs. So that includes the chair, Charles Q. Brown, the Joint Chiefs chair, Chief of Naval Operations, Air Force Vice Chief, and Judge Advocates General for the Army, Navy, and Air Force, which are basically a bunch of, like, senior legal people. And people aren't really super happy about this, because it seems like the reason people like Charles Q. Brown got shit canned, which, by the way, he was, like, elevated by Trump in the first place during his first term. So it's hilarious that he's being kicked out now.
Well, it's all around the DEI stuff. That's
basically Charles Q. Brown spoke openly in America during the George Floyd protests about what it meant to be a black man in America, and some of the difficulties associated with that. And they said, you're a DEI, get out of here, basically. So men that are black, or women they're out. Or men who support. One of the people who was kicked out was just a guy who was thought to have given a job to a woman for like DI reasons. That may or may not be true. Anyway, he's out now as well. So it's just like a purge of all of the senior military officials, which is a fun, cool and normal thing that democratic governments do, is they just purge all the top military officials that don't agree with them on stuff. That's like a fun, cool, normal thing that happens. So
normally you might, as a president, incoming president, you might make one or two switches, right? But it's rare that you would fire the whole Joint Chief.
Yeah, it's pretty weird. Hey Adam, it is pretty weird.
It's pretty weird.
It's pretty
not
weird.
Saying it's unprecedented, but it's weird.
Are they replacing them with anybody, or is this another Doge?
So one of the people they're replacing them.
Any chiefs.
So one of the people that they're replacing them with is a 3-star general. That's generally not someone that would be up for a position on the Joint Chiefs of Staff. You need to be 4-star or above. But it's okay because basically this guy allegedly has said that he would kill for Trump. So it's cool. It's cool.
Right. And so he probably will now.
Yep. Well, he will have the chance.
Yep.
Yeah, Kane.
Right.
The guy's name is Kane, which is just like a movie villain name. That's too much. Yep, that guy is going to be...
I believe Kane. His name is John Dan Raisin Kane.
Raisin Kane.
According to the article here. I don't want to know why his nickname is Raisin. Yeah. But, yep, not fun.
It's not great. Anyway, so they were just going to move swiftly along from the military purge. That's just a little B-side.
That's a blip.
That's fine.
Because that was the Friday night massacre, so that happened like just after the whole Zelenskyy breakdown.
No, that was at the start of the administration. That was actually a couple of weeks ago, I think.
The previous Friday, I think.
Oh,
something like
previous
that.
Friday.
Yeah,
Right,
it's only
okay.
been like 6 weeks.
Again, trying to track the timeline of the crazy.
Anyway, so speaking of everyone's favorite South African billionaire megalomaniac, Elon Musk, as we were earlier, there was a weird, like, kind of filmed cabinet meeting, just full of white dudes, where Elon Musk basically says po body's nerfed in terms of like what they're doing at Doge. Sometimes they're going to make mistakes. Mistakes happen.
Standing there disrespectfully, not
in a suit.
And,
not in a suit.
wearing a cap indoors in a cabinet meeting.
Anyway, so here's Elon Musk on mistakes that he has made.
We'll make mistakes. We won't be perfect, but when we make a mistake, we'll fix it very quickly. So, for example, with USAID, one of the things we accidentally canceled very briefly was Ebola. Ebola prevention. I think we all want Ebola prevention. So we restored the Ebola prevention immediately, and there was no interruption.
That's not true.
So,
Thank you, Rachel.
I love that, Al. Obviously that's not true. Yeah, and the interview goes on to talk about how she gets an Ebola expert on and basically says, hey, like there's live, hemorrhagic fevers and live Ebola stuff that's happening right now in West Africa that normally we would be sending people over to help address that. And we're not doing that. So, that's a lie that he just like, oh, yeah, oops, we accidentally switched off Ebola. Or whoopsie, but is nerfed. And they're like, it's all right because we switched it back on, except you didn't. Except that's a lie and you're a liar. There was another one. I'm sorry. There's one more, and then we'll switch to Australia. Only 58 minutes.
Look at my eyes, George. Look at my eyes.
I'm so.
Make it stop.
Make it stop. There's one more.
Make it stop, Daddy. I can't deal with
Is it weird that the Chinese military exercises near Tasmania didn't even make the fucking list this week?
Oh yeah, don't worry about that. That's cool and normal.
That's fine.
Yep. Yeah, cool and normal.
Anyway, so. Here's a clip of Trump getting. This again seems like a setup just for the media, where Trump calls out a Maine governor for her support of the trans community. I'll just play the clip and you'll hear it. So this is a meeting of all the different governors from all the different states across America in a room with Trump.
The NCAA has complied immediately, by the way. The NCAA has complied immediately, by the way. That's good. But I understand Maine. Is Maine here, the governor of Maine?
Not here.
Are you not going to comply with it?
I'm complying with state and federal laws.
We are the federal law. Well, you better do it. You better do it because you're not going to get any federal funding at all if you don't. And by the way, your population, even though it's somewhat liberal, although I did very well there, your population doesn't want men playing in women's sports. So you better comply because otherwise you're not getting any federal funding.
See you in court.
Every state, good. I'll see you in court. I look forward to that. That should be a real easy one.
Jesus Christ.
That's the governor of Maine, the U.S. president, again,
Just
very
arguing,
publicly,
just arguing in
just
public.
arguing about, and this was about.
He brought it up.
What was the ruling they passed an executive order?
It was to do with an anti-transgender people playing in trans women playing in women's sport. That was and he's just like and where's the one I can yell at? You Maine, you're shit.
Yeah, it's definitely a tactic. He did it earlier with Zelenskyy as well.
Yeah,
that
it's the
whole
same
sort of
thing.
of that if I'm doing this in a room full of people, that I would imagine most of the time it works. Like it would cause the person being berated to shut down because this is so public and so uncomfortable.
It's just mean. He's just an asshole.
I want to make this stop.
Yeah.
So I'll just be like, yeah, great. Okay, yeah, awesome. Just to make this really traumatic moment stop. And yeah, it's to the credit of people like Zelenskyy and the governor of Maine there that they can at least hold their nerve.
Yeah,
and say, I'll see you in court then. Like, I'm going to comply with
I'm going to comply with all state and federal laws. Like, what do you expect a governor to say? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
it's insane. But
the thing that was crazy about that is the pull quote that really disturbed me from that was quote, we are the federal law. He literally just like, I am the senated.
Yeah.
To some fucking governor for the sake of dunking on her on television. Like he's just so mean. He's just such a cunt. Yeah. Like I don't understand how the American public have fallen in love with this guy. He's such a prick. He's just mean.
He uses bully tactics.
He's a bully.
Yeah. He's a bully who he's a bully that has been enabled so much over his life that he has misconstrued it as like tactical genius,
tactical advantage,
deal making. Like, yeah, he just gets enabled by everyone around him. Just continue being a cunt.
Polyverse is writing in the chat, "You're fired." Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Yeah, we shouldn't be surprised. The man rose to prominence by being a famous televisual asshole. Like, we should not be surprised that is what he is doing in his second presidency. Anyway, on to Australian politics, a mere 1 hour and 3 minutes later. So we have an election coming up. It has not yet been called. Peter Dutton, everyone's favourite antagonist of The Boy Who Lived, Peter Dutton, says that he is going to cut $24 billion from public service jobs, and that's going to pay for the bulk billing boost that they agreed to, that Labor put forward last week.
Interestingly, Labor haven't said anything like that, like that they're just going to do it without the pretext of having to
take a hacksaw to the public service. Yeah, for some reason they haven't found the need to do that. But yeah, so there's a number of things that really bother me about this because, okay, so there's been this whole thing, this line of attack that Liberals have had against Labor here in Australia, saying that, you've hired 36,000 public servants, over the last couple of years, and basically we're going to cut the public service and we're going to start with those 36,000 people, and that's going to save all this money in the budget, right? The thing is, though, a lot of those jobs are going to things that actually kind of improve government efficiency. So, for example, one of the largest increases has been 3,500 new jobs at the National Disability Insurance Agency to detect fraud and overpayments, which is a key reason that the cost of the scheme is finally starting to stabilise after surging up to 20% a year for the last several years. Another 2,800 have been added to the Defence Department, and 542 people have been employed in the Australian Submarine Agency to oversee the bipartisan $368 billion AUKUS submarine project. 2,500 have been added to the Health Department for like frontline services, 1,000 to aged care, 2,000 new workers in the Veterans Affairs Department, which is cutting wait lists for, long wait lists for delivering payments promised to veterans, things like that. So Peter Dutton goes, we're not going to affect any frontline services, but we are going to cut 36,000 jobs from the public service that have been added. But the jobs that have been added are ones that are, for the most part, like improving efficiency and delivering frontline services. So I don't quite understand how that's supposed to work.
They don't understand either, George, because it's a talking point put out by a marketing agency without any fucking budgetary rationale behind it.
Yeah. And the thing is, the reason that we have all of this influx of employees in the public service is because the Morrison government had an artificial cap on the amount of employees that were employed by the public service. But of course, it doesn't change the amount of things that need to get done in the government just by putting an arbitrary cap on the number of people that you're allowed to employ. So things still needed to get done. What do? They farm them out to consultancies. And that's why in the final year of the Morrison government, they spent $20 billion on outsourcing and consultancies in that last year alone. Okay, so it's like saying we're going to save on our grocery bill. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to order Uber Eats every night. What we're going to do, our grocery bill is staying very much the same. We're not spending any more on groceries, but we are eating at Vue de Monde every night.
It gets delivered to your front door, which is great.
It's extremely convenient. Which is obviously nonsense because the amount, the charge out rates that you would get from a consultant are going to be in the order of 4 to 5 times more than what you would get if you hired a normal salary if you just paid them, as part of the public service. So the $20.8 billion that they spent on consultants in the last year of the Morrison government would equate to almost 54,000 full-time staff. So by the Australian government employing 36,000 staff rather than
saving money,
paying for what would equate to 54,000 staff, they're actually saving money. They're actually finding efficiencies and bringing those capabilities back into government rather than relying on expensive consultancies in order to provide those services.
Which is what Labor's been saying since day one.
Day dot. Yes, exactly.
But the issue is that somehow that message isn't cutting through. I don't know how. I mean, even when they got into government, like there were interviews and backgrounding, and there was a whole heap of stuff that was being put into the press. Again, didn't really cut through that well, but they were shocked. Like the Labor Party,
I remember those stories.
They were shocked at the state of the public service. There was no one there.
The thrust of the stories was basically like, hey, this is Labor. We just got here. We had no idea how bad it was. Like that was the thrust of those stories. But essentially, it's bad. But and the thing is, it's like the vast majority of these costs are going to programs that the Liberals themselves admit that they wouldn't want to cut. Like the vast majority of that consulting work, the vast majority of those jobs that are being hired by Labor in the public service instead of those consultants' fees are for like I said, defense, which if you talk to Peter Dutton, he'd be like, oh, I'm so fucking horny for defense. Oh, I love a good fucking submarine. Like we absolutely need to get those fucking submarines and frontline service. Like if you actually ask them the things that they care about, they will say these exact things that the government has hired workers for. You know what I mean? But in order to sound good, they go, oh, yeah, we're just going to take a hatchet. We're just going to take a big hacksaw to the public service. It's like, okay, where specifically? It's like, oh, you better believe where it's going to be where you least expect it. It's like, okay, but where specifically, Peter? Because you can't talk about maintaining frontline services and improving frontline services, improving healthcare, improving Medicare, and also take a hatchet to the government. Like you need to explain how you can do both of those things at the same time. Otherwise, you're not a serious government in waiting. If that's the proposal that you're putting forward, like it just makes no sense.
That's not the only option they've got, though, George, because what they're going to do is make some sneaky investments, some well-educated guesses on the share market.
Yep.
And that'll pay for everything. Don't worry about it.
Well, it's funny you say that, Adam, because there's a gentleman I know who's had a bit of a flutter on the stock market and seems to be very gifted.
Bit of a punt.
Very gifted indeed on making timing decisions on the stock market. It emerged this week that one Peter J. Dutton is very, very good indeed at timing his stock market trades. So it's come out. It's been reported out by, I think it was news.com.au that had the story initially. But essentially one Peter Dutton between November of 2008 and the 23rd of January 2009 went on what was described as a, quote, share buying blitz across the banking sector and picked up, and we don't know how many shares, but he updated his registry several times between October of 2008 and January 23rd of 2009 with a number of purchases in, again, we don't know how much or at what price, shares in Commonwealth Bank, ANZ Bank, Westpac Bank, BHP, National Australia Bank, Commonwealth Bank, and Westpac. Okay, and that latest one was on the 23rd of January of 2009. Now, miraculously, on January 4th of 2009, the Rudd government announced a bank bailout package of about $4 billion, which at the time wasn't a standing amount of money. Now, for various reasons, Australia's banks seem to be less badly capitalised than some of the European banks. Didn't actually end up going ahead. But the news and the announcement had the intended effect, and the bank shares bounced back spectacularly. Now, maybe unrelated to that, later on, Peter Dutton advised that, in February and March, that he had disposed of some of those shares that he had purchased during that time period. Now,
then he threw them out. He didn't sell them. He just got rid of them.
No, he sold them.
Oh, okay.
He sold them.
Kindling.
We don't know when. We don't know how many. But given the dates, for example, NAB shares went around when he bought them were at a low of $16, down from a high of $41 before the crisis. After the bailout announcement, the shares recovered quickly to a high of $22 by April and a high of $30 by October in 2009. Now, the reason that people think this is interesting is that Peter Dutton had really not made many addendums to his register of interest, as he is obliged to do as a Minister of Parliament, especially one who's on the front bench, front shadow bench. And then coincidentally, around all this talk about global financial crisis, there is just a flurry of transactions all around that time. Now, Labor is suggesting that, maybe it might be the case that Peter Dutton had access to some privileged information, being a member of the front bench, and that, Malcolm Turnbull, his boss, was being briefed regularly on what Labor's intentions were and how the policy discussion was shaping up in terms of their response to the global financial crisis. And maybe it would behoove Peter Dutton to share maybe the minutes of some of those meetings to see whether they had discussed any privileged information that he would have had access to before making some of those trades. And they have said that's ancient history and it's muckraking, and they're not going to do that. And he has denied, I would like to stress this, Peter Dutton has denied vociferously any claims of insider trading.
That's not causal, but there's a correlation, shall we say, between the dates and the purchases.
It does happen to be the best day that
to
decade
buy shares ever. Yeah.
Between 2002 until, well, since basically before 2002. It was the best day, not just that year, that decade, to buy bank shares. So
this is just it's Labor's grubby dirt unit, George.
Well, it's just bloody grubby Labor trying to win the election with facts.
As though, when Anthony Albanese bought a house last year, that wasn't, perhaps
the
like
great
the
scandal.
hottest news.
The great scandal of the Albanese campaign was when he checks notes, bought a house legally with his own money.
Yeah.
They made a meal out of that. That was an 8-course digger station.
Yeah.
This is just like, this is nothing. This is ancient history.
Yeah, it was like, some shocking optics in a cost of living crisis. Like maybe worth making a meal out of, but
It's
to
not
not
a
make a
scandal.
meal out of this.
It's barely a news story. It's not a scandal.
It's not a scandal.
This is like incredibly dubious timing around the purchase of these shares. But like, say we take Peter Dutton at his word, which, word to the wise. I don't know if that's what I would do. Take Peter Dutton at his word all the time, but here we are. Say we take Peter Dutton at his word and assume that there's nothing nefarious about those share transactions. The thing that really bugs me about all of this is that when he should have been thinking about how to help everyday working family Australian battlers, instead of doing that, what he was doing was thinking about how to make a bag for himself. Like, even if we give the most charitable explanation and say, no, there's nothing untoward. He didn't know any. He was just sitting in Parliament quietly with the door closed, twiddling his thumbs during the maelstrom of the global financial crisis. He didn't know anything. He didn't know anything about anything.
He might have made an educated guess based on what the US was doing with its banks that Australia would potentially do the same thing.
Say that that's the case. As a member of the shadow government, rather than thinking about helping the Australian people, he was like, Daddy can probably get his little beak wet on this one. Num 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 num. Like that was his first thought in a crisis, not like how do we help?
How can he continue to help the battlers if he's not if he's poor and destitute, George? He has to make all the money he possibly can so as he can keep serving the Australian
prosperity doctrine, 100%. Yeah. God wants me to have a G6. That's why you have to donate. So that was an interesting story this week. Again, I would like to clarify that Peter Dutton has stipulated that he has not conducted insider trading, even though in this article that I posted, I give you the definition of insider trading according to Australian law. And you can read that and then just have your own thoughts inside your own head that aren't defamation about how he may or may not have conducted himself. Are we good there? Are we covered?
I think we're good.
None of us are lawyers, so...
To clarify, I am not suggesting that Peter Dutton definitely committed insider trading. That is not what I'm saying.
But do you know what is definite, George? Is that it's definite that Pauline Hanson's One Nation has hired a convicted rapist to run its federal election campaign.
No, sorry, Adam. I hate to correct you on this. I think you mean Pauline Hanson's One Nation's Pauline Hanson.
Yes. Well... yeah, I mean, she ought to be across the decision. If she's not, then that's another problem that they have. But
indeed.
And you know what? You can't even like blame this one on the terrible vetting process that they do. Like, we've seen it a million times before. They get a candidate, they put them in a seat, they start running the election campaign, and then, oh no, the photos of the swastika they mowed into their backyard start cropping up.
The swastika mowed into the lawn is a real story. For those who are just joining us, that is a real thing that happened with the One Nation candidate. I beg you to Google it.
He also did an Elon Musk salute next to the mowed swastika. So, take with that what you will.
Yeah, a little Roman salute. Yeah.
Yeah, little Roman salute. But yeah, they can't even say that with this one because it's not just that Pauline Hanson's One Nation, Pauline Hanson, has hired a convicted rapist to run the federal election campaign. They have rehired him. For the second time.
Tom, do you know how hard it is to find? Do you know how hard it is to find good help nowadays?
The help must be great because they seem adamant that they have to have this guy. Sean Black is his name. They just have to have this guy.
No one is as keen to prove himself as an adjudicated rapist. Like they are definitely thankful for the job and ready to work hard and put in, long days.
Yeah, like it's absolutely nuts because so his history with the party, he was previously a media advisor for Malcolm the Living Soul Roberts way back when.
I forgot about the living soul,
I
Roberts.
I think in 2018 or a little bit earlier than that. And then the allegations against him came out. And while the legality of that was happening, like while that sort of trial was underway, he was still media advising for Malcolm Roberts.
Cool.
And then the only reason his tenure ended was because he went to jail. He was found guilty for the crime of rape.
So just to clarify, having a suspected rapist working for One Nation, fine. Having a convicted rapist, not so good. You can't work here anymore.
Well,
having someone who was convicted of rape 5 years ago, okay.
Yeah. I mean, the can't work here anymore probably wasn't One Nation's decision, rather the
he was in prison.
The legal system cutting him.
There's a bit of a gap in your resume. Could you care to explain the last 5 years where what's going on there?
Sorry, 2017. Sorry, 2017 was when that happened. So sentenced to 5 years jail. And then in sentencing, there's a quote from the judge, or not a quote, but just saying that the judge said he clearly showed no remorse, despite having effectively rehabilitated himself in his time.
This is horrifying. Listen to this. In sentencing, district court judge Glenn Cash said Black had used violence to dominate their relationship. This is the relationship with him and his wife at the time, assaulting her while she held their infant son in her arms and dragging her by the hair from a shower to rape her.
I was going to skip those details.
This guy, why should we, like, I know it's a comedy show and it brings the fucking tone down, but like I think people need to understand the gravity of this guy's fucking crimes. This guy's a piece of shit who has now gotten a promotion and running One Nation's fucking federal election campaign. This is the guy that they've got running the show now.
For the second time, because
Twice.
So the next part is he served. He was released from jail in 2020. To which One Nation hired him back to work in their headquarters. And they sacked him a few months later because apparently there were internal complaints. People within
I wonder
One
why.
Nation complained that this guy was here.
Yeah. Could you imagine being so nuts to be in One Nation and go, I can't work with that guy.
Can't work with Sean.
Can't work with Sean. That's crazy.
Fucked.
Sean's your boss now.
So a spokesman said in February 2021 that Sean Black no longer works for One Nation. But now the ABC have seen emails, that by, mid 2023, Sean was back working for One Nation. They really want this
Sean Black. They want him
in their office. It's
Tom.
It's the fact.
I mean, you said before they've got vetting issues and that kind of thing. I mean, I'm wondering if this guy is the cause of those vetting issues.
Is he in charge of picking all the candidates or whatever?
Well, this is what his job is. He's the campaign advisor, which means part of is now, I guess.
I don't think all the other instances I saw media advisor to Malcolm Roberts and working in the office. So I don't know the specific roles sort of there. So he might not have been the one picking swastika lawnmower man.
But he definitely worked with the people picking swastika man, though, didn't he?
And it's a bit clear, I guess the company of the One Nation office seemed to haven't heard of any internal complaints this time around. So
it's just wild to me that a convicted rapist is running the show for a political party. That's actually fucking crazy.
He did his time, George. He served, and now he's a free man.
He's paid his debt to society, and now he's fine. Let's let him babysit. Yep. What do you reckon? Seems like a good guy.
Yeah, great guy. But yeah, so just in headlines that absolutely shocking and terrible, but also just didn't make me bat an eyelid. Yeah, was Pauline Hanson's One Nation rehires convicted rapist to run federal election campaign.
Crazy.
This isn't The Onion. This isn't Batuta Advocate.
Quick question, Pauline. Sorry, just before we pull the trigger on the Sean thing. Do we think the fact that he's a convicted rapist might blow back on us at all as a political party? Do we think that might come up?
Does that leave us open to any kind of
any sort of risk, politically, from a narrative optics standpoint, that we've got a convicted rapist running our federal campaign? Do you think that might be a problem, or?
Oh,
No?
I think a bigger problem is all these squat toilets.
The
doing
bloody
taxes.
squatty toilets.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's just
Pauline's got bigger
the
things
DEI
on her.
narrative,
It's the
George.
DEI. It's the woke agenda that's the problem, not the convicted rapist. I'm not saying that someone who's been convicted of a crime should never have a job again. Obviously, like rehabilitation is a real thing, and
Oh,
like
of course.
if he had shown remorse, which doesn't seem he has,
Which apparently not.
which apparently not, according to the judge. If he'd shown remorse for, I don't know, maybe a non-violent crime, you go like, maybe he was caught dealing weed. You go, okay, well, like, okay, maybe that shouldn't be a crime or something like that. You could kind of go, okay, well, you know, we'll move past it. But like, I feel like rape is that's a biggie. That's one of the big three. Like, I don't want to ever see or speak to you ever again kind of crimes. Like, I understand people like need to like have a job and like live in a house, but like, I don't know, couldn't you dig ditches or just like, I don't know, do online like internet marketing or something? So just like something where you never have to see or speak to real human beings ever again, I think would be probably ideal. But
Well, that's effectively keeping them in prison forever, though. Then, if you're just not speaking or to anybody ever again, that's just permanent prison.
Yes,
Yeah,
but
so I see your point, though.
maybe you shouldn't be. I think there's a happy middle ground between having any job and rejoining society and running the federal election campaign for a major political party.
For a political party, yeah. There's
There's a middle ground between those things.
maybe some disqualifications should maybe apply.
And that's been all of the things that happened this week in the news and nothing else. On
No,
that,
it wasn't all the things. It was
What?
just a selection of the things.
Oh, it was a selection, yeah.
There was other batshit stuff that happened, but we just
Bruce Lemon got charged with stealing a car.
true.
Oh, that didn't even make the list. Yeah, and the whole
didn't
like
even make the
Chinese
list.
military exercise, or it was like off the coast of Tasmania or
Yeah,
something.
a live fire exercise
What
in
the
Tasman
fuck?
Sea.
Yeah.
That didn't even make the
also
list.
that-
We cut that.
Yeah. And Bruce Lerman appeared in court because he stole a woman's Toyota.
Toyota Prado, which is a nice car. On that note, we have been, we are, we always will be Unnatural Selection. Make sure you visit us at our salubrious home on the web, unnaturalshow.com. I wrote up an article about that Peter Dutton share transactions. Definitely not bad situation. How do I phrase this without getting sued? This totally normal and cool Peter Dutton share transaction situation. So make sure you check that out on our website, unnaturalshow.com. Make sure you follow us on all the bullshit social medias that have, do, or ever will exist at Unnatural Show. That's Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, and mother flipping TikTok. And make sure you follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Blue Sky at George Tsipos.
You can follow me on Twitter at Tom D. Heath.
And you can follow me down to the bunker that I'm going to be building beneath my house because while World War III, you know, it's all Zelensky's fault, it still may well happen. So best be prepared, you know.
And just before we go, what were 5 things that you did to help the podcast this week?
I only need one. Vibes.
I got a haircut, so I look nice.
You do look great, I have to say.
You do look very nice. I got a haircut this past week as well, but I have not done my hair today, and it's just a scraggly mess. But I'm going for that like tousled. I just got out of bed. And it's 10 p.m.
Kind of like tussled fuckboy vibes. That's definitely cool.
Yeah. Also, you know, I met and exceeded KPIs and. You know, made sure that I hit SLAs 80% or above target.
How many story points did you close?
All of them.
We're only 6 weeks in. My body cannot keep this up for 4 years. I don't know what we're gonna do.
Just stop it, George. You gotta let it go. You gotta turn off the news alerts.
Okay. All right.
You can
Bye.
do it. I believe in you.
We'll see you next week. Oh fuck.